This episode of the Better Two podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thank you for tuning into the Better Two podcast. Today's guest is David Hernandez. David and I talk about, for a good bit of the show, about stress eating and what leads to it. But we also talk about what led him on this journey and a near-death experience after a trip to Haiti. So tune in. Hi, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you and your audience.
It's kind of an interesting topic that you want to discuss, but there was other things besides the actual topic. But we're going to talk about the topic first, then we'll get into the other little things.
Great.
So the one thing that you brought up that I found very interesting, and this is going to be a little bit different lead in into the normal podcast that we do, is stress eating. And there are the statistics you cited, the 83% to 88% of people stress eat. Right. And I think, if you're not stress eating, at least in our culture in America, if we're not stress eating, we are celebrating with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
We always have some means of escape or how to deal with it. Me, I'm a writer, so I tend to try to go that route.
Yeah.
But one thing in your article that you wrote, which will be in the show notes, is that you were talking about stress eating and how it's learned. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact my mother was a stress eater.
Yeah.
So I understand that. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. I know you had a friend
mm-hmm.
who you lost when he was 21 years old.
That's right.
Or you were 21. So talk a little bit about that friendship, if you would, and tell us about his journey.
Yeah.
And your journey.
Yeah, great question. Eric, he was a great friend of mine. We were like brothers, grew up together, played sports together, did everything together. But, he was kind of the one that wouldn't necessarily fit into the crowd. He was a bit overweight. He was taller. He had a weird structured body. And he always battled with that in himself. He was very insecure about that. He didn't like to go out because of that. But I would always encourage him that there was a better way, that he could change those things if we simply just made some adjustments. So being young and being into fitness myself from a young age and nutrition and just living that whole sports life, I would teach him as much as I could. So go to the gym, I would teach him certain things. And the more we did that, he would get encouraged, but he would quickly fall off. And I didn't understand why at that age. I didn't understand why he couldn't change his patterns, why he couldn't change and adopt new habits. So at the age of 21, at 18, we actually moved. He stayed in Texas. I moved to Florida to pursue my nutrition and culinary arts career. And at the age of 21, I got a phone call that he had passed away. And it was a sucker punch. And I remember I lived in guilt. I would blame myself, feeling that I could have done more. So about 6 to 8 months of that self-shaming and that self-sabotaging, I had to quickly realize that there was really not much more I could have done, right? It really had to also come from him, that true desire of really fighting and wanting it for himself. And I think that's where a lot of times we can get it a bit twisted, where we have the desire here, but it hasn't necessarily dropped into our hearts in the sense that we're going to do whatever it takes to figure out what I need to be able to adopt this change. Because it's not simply a change that is achieved through diets or achieved through simply, okay, I'm going to decide to stop eating this today. It's a lot deeper. And it really comes down to the psychological understanding of knowing who we are and where we are in our life. And after those 8 months and I made that realization, I did make a commitment though. I made that commitment that said that as long as I knew of somebody and if I could help them avoid going through what my best friend went through, I was going to do it. And that kind of then opened that door for me to explore, well, what is that cause? Why is it that people have the desire here? They do certain things, but they really don't achieve what they want. And it actually dropping into their heart, right? And so that really came down to understanding the psychology of food and the relationship that people have with food, right? And everything that is impacting their inner personality. And in that, the thing that keeps us all one thing in common with everything that we do is food. And food impacts a lot of what we do. It impacts our mood, it impacts our energy, it impacts our cognitive thinking, it impacts our physical ability to do things. And so the more I really researched into this topic is how I was able to really decide and determine that this was the key factor that was not addressed and what kept my best friend trapped in the life that he just was dreading and wanted to get out of.
What did he end up dying from?
Obesity.
Okay. I
He
didn't know if it
he was
was heart, diabetes, or
no, so he became so obese that he got desperate to get the weight off that he went to get a gastric bypass surgery. 2 days later, he got an infection and he passed away. Right. So
I go ahead.
yeah, he became that was his extreme case, right? He became so desperate. Everything else that he thought he had tried had failed him. And he got to this place that, well, this is my only outlet. And sadly, it was what took him out.
And I'm not going to fault gastric bypass, but I do have two people that I actually two people that I know.
Yeah.
One had the gastric bypass early on,
Okay.
so or late 90s, early 2000s. And at the time, they were only using two sutures to do
Right.
the intestines.
Okay.
Well, her intestine ended up slipping up between it and tied, and she started vomiting blood and passing blood.
Yeah.
And so they had to go back in and redo the surgery. Now, years later, here's the thing that nobody really talks about. Years later, she ended up with a pain condition from something else.
Right.
But because of the way her body was rerouted, she cannot absorb the nutrients for food,
Right.
for vitamins,
Right.
and she goes through painkillers like that
Mhm.
because they don't have any effect.
That's right.
Then the other person I knew that had it, I watched her. She was so proud of herself that she lost the weight. And I'm like, okay. But then she would do this. She would drink, and then she would eat, and then she'd go purge.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then and I'm like, so really you traded one vice for another
That's
because
right.
now you're still.
That's right.
And she's no longer with us because she had a blood clot related to something else.
So
And so
sorry.
I don't fault the gastric bypass. I don't. I think it's a great tool for people that can use it.
Right.
But you have what you're not told when you go to one of these sessions is all the ramifications that can come with
right.
it.
It's a risk.
And we're designed to be able to absorb things by the way our body's formed. If we
100%.
are start
That's
if
right.
we're start taking things out, how are we going to
That's right.
be able to be healthy?
That's right. And a lot of these resources, right, or sometimes very desperate choices that we make in life, they come with the price, they come with the risk. But it's really about if we don't know what is really keeping us trapped in this place that is leading us to these desperate measures, we're going to put ourselves in a very vulnerable situation and possibly expose ourselves to other health related issues. Because it's really not just saying, okay, I have this problem, so let's find the fast solution, the quick solution to this. And a lot of people that are in this place get to that state because they're very desperate to just, I no longer want to be in this condition. I no longer want to be in this place. I no longer want to keep battling with these situations. And sadly, a lot of times these risks that we take can open possibility to other health concerns and other issues, right? Which is why I always like to say there is a better way, right? And if we do not understand the possibilities of what this better way is, we're going to continue to resort through this path that can lead us to a destructive lifestyle in the long run, right? In the future. It might seem in the moment, oh, it's a great solution. I can solve this finally. But like you mentioned, there are a lot of ramifications that can come with it. So it's really about just understanding fully, like, what then can we do?
Well, and I mean, here's the thing. Are you and they always go back to if you want to lose weight, it has to be about getting healthy. It can't be from anything else. And
Right.
A lot of times when you're younger, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you are so worried about changing for everybody else.
That's right.
You're worried about making sure you look good
That's
for
right.
somebody else. And I actually I don't go on TikTok very often. I was uploading a video, and this girl came on, and she had said that she had joined a plus size dating site.
Mm.
And she said that she was 365 pounds, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like you were athletic, you had a few plus pounds, or you were, I forget the exact term, but it was like you were super fluffy or super size. That's what it was.
Wow.
Super size.
Okay.
And this person came back at her and said, "You're not supersized. You're lying to me."
Mm.
She's like, "Well, what I weigh is more than a few extra pounds."
Right.
So it's like, even, on something like that, there's
Mm-hmm.
no acceptance.
That's right.
And I think this is where the healthy mindset and the healthy lifestyle has to find balance, but it's very
Yeah.
hard to find that balance when you have the outside stresses, you have the
Absolutely.
outside images that are being presented at, well, look at what Khloe Kardashian did and look at her
Oh
now.
yeah.
But no one sits there and unpacks that maybe she also, besides doing some physical activity, maybe she did something else.
Yeah. And
Nobody looks at that.
that's 95% of the case, right? They do
Mm-hmm.
because they can, therefore they do things that a lot of times we don't take into consideration. But that is why it's really like you mentioned, I'm happy you brought that up. It's understanding why are we doing what we're doing. When we're doing them for the wrong reasons, when we're doing it to satisfy society, to satisfy mom and dad, to please a man or a woman, to please somebody else, to simply get an external, right, or an extrinsic inspiration or motivation, or just to be wanted or desired, if it's not coming from a reasoning that is within an intrinsic, it has purpose, it has meaning, it has value, it has worth for you as the man or woman, as the individual, the intrinsic motivation needs to be the root and the start that sparks our reasons for why we are wanting to change our current situation, right? Which is why it does become a life choice. It becomes a deeper interpersonal relationship as to why you want to do what you want to do. And when we really identify this, which oftentimes when we've lived a certain life that we have not been pleased with, that we've been bullied with, that we've made fun of, that we have not found certain value in, we end up losing our self-worth. We end up losing our self-value. We end up losing truly the essence of who we are, the value that we've been given by being a human,
Mm-hmm.
right? The gift of being born, which is the what are the statistics? It's like 400 trillion to one
Mm-hmm.
possibility of being born a human, right? And we've got to come back to that piece. We've really got to come back to meaning and purpose and understanding that there's got to be a deeper reason why we're doing what we're doing. Changes all across, right? Whether we want to improve our finances or improve our relationships or improve our body, whatever it is, it's got to start from within. And it's got to start from a place that we understand the deeper meaning as to why we want to do it, not to please others, but to simply satisfy something within.
Well, and that's, you know, it also has to do that. I mean, it's from you, yes, but we also have to look at the societal
That's right.
issues that we have.
Absolutely.
And I'm not just talking about food or money. I'm talking about, well, let's go back to childhood,
Yeah,
being children,
that's right.
the way we treat other kids. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
remember somebody signing my yearbook. I think it was seventh grade, signing my yearbook because I was a tomboy, to Moose, a cool and ugly girl.
Wow.
Okay. I've been out of seventh grade for a long damn time, but
But
that
it's
yearbook,
still there. It still
yeah.
hits. Yeah.
And I remember, we're talking about health, and I've talked about my husband, but my husband was basically your friend, and he didn't do the gastric thing though. But my husband, he was playing sports, and in fourth grade, somebody flung a bat and hit him in the face,
Mm.
and he decided at that moment that he didn't want to do sports anymore because it was too dangerous.
Wow.
By the time he was 21, he was diagnosed as type 1 diabetes
Hmm.
or diabetic, and he lost 100 pounds. He did really well. And he met somebody, he had a coworker that
Mm-hmm.
said to him, "Hey, you want that donut? I'll teach you how to pull extra insulin."
Mm.
So my husband learned how to do this. Now I wouldn't meet him until he was almost 40. And I would get after him like, well, you should take your sugar. And he would sit there and he could tell me his sugar within a point. Most of the
Wow.
time it was exact. So how
Wow.
am I going to argue with this?
Yeah.
But I watched him be the post, and he would proudly say this to people as a warning. He's like, I'm the poster boy for a bad diabetic.
Mm.
I've had a quadruple bypass. I've had 7 stents. I've had 3 retina reattachments. I haven't lost
Wow.
any, haven't had any limb loss, but he did have hammer toes cut.
Mhm.
I mean, on and on and on. Blister wound care, all this thing. I walked into a relationship and I didn't know about how to take care of any of this,
Wow.
but I learned. But the
Yeah.
fact is, he got to the point where he's on dialysis,
Mm.
and he was on Prilosec a lot. And yes, everybody knows about the
Yeah.
Prilosec problem that they had with that,
Oh, yeah.
because no doctor ever said you only take it for 14 days. No,
Yeah.
just keep taking
Just
it.
keep, that's right.
So he got off of that, and he got off of eating gluten,
Mm.
and his kidneys came back. And he was off of dialysis for 7 months. And the reason I bring this up is we're talking about lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So he got off of gluten. And we went grocery shopping one day, and he saw a loaf of bread on the clearance cart, one of the French loaves. He's like,
Mhm.
I really want a sandwich. I really want a brown Schwager sandwich. I'm like, okay. And I'm not gonna, it's his life. I love
Yeah.
him, but I'm
Yeah.
not gonna sit here and nag him.
Yeah.
Fine. One turned into more, and dot 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 dot, and gluten became, I mean, he would still do gluten free for me, but he would make sandwiches for him on regular bread. And guess what? He ended up back in dialysis. And ultimately, he ended up with 2 more stents. And they're not sure if he passed away from cardiac arrest or a stroke, because they all
Mm.
happened at the same time in a car sitting next to me.
Wow.
So he was on borrowed time. But my
Yeah.
whole point is, this is a journey. This is a journey that, because he died at 55. So had in 4th grade, had that bat not hit him in the face, the
That's right.
choice he made,
Yeah.
he could have stayed physically active
Yeah. That's right.
and made different choices.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, when we look at either that incident, or somebody telling the chubby kid, hey Piglet, come here. Nobody ever called me that. I was not
Yeah.
chubby as a kid,
But
but
that's a thing. Yeah.
this is, yeah. And I mean, and then you have to look at home. I mean, when I was a teenager, I wasn't obese, but my mom would sit there and go, oh, you'd be so much prettier if you lost weight.
Yeah.
What, are my ribs supposed to show?
Mhm.
And then my stepfather, because I had a little bit of a gut, would touch my stomach and say, oh, hi, Miss Pouch.
Mm. Terrible.
What are you doing to
Oh,
your
yeah.
the person's self-esteem, and what kind of weapon is that?
Oh, yeah.
And my mom, and I know this is way too much, but this goes
No,
back to
no,
your stress
please.
eating.
Absolutely.
So when my parents split, my mom was very proud to say that she was eating. I'd come home, she picked me up from school, and she's like, yep, I had a custard pie today, a whole custard pie, or I had eclairs or cream puffs. And it's like, if that's not the lesson, I had her, that was her thing.
Yeah.
And my dad would drink. So it was
Mhm.
like, pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah.
And I
They've
think
made that
that's
choice.
so many times, though, as children, we see them picking their poison, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
how you're not being taught how to handle stress. You're not taught in school how to handle stress.
100%.
So
That's right.
therefore, how do you handle it? You mimic what you've seen by
That's
the
right.
people around you.
That's right. All, and I guess I won't say all, but most, if not all, of our behavior patterns are learned. And they're
Mhm.
learned from that young age, right? And we see it from 0 to about 7 years old are the most critical ages that a child is learning through observational learning, through conditional learning, through habitual learning, through fun learning, right? And all of these are what start to shape us. Therefore, if we see our mom, our dad, our uncles, our grandmother, whatever, handling their emotions, handling their stress, handling their life struggles a specific way. And that's all we've seen around us, right? That's why it's very important to look at what is our environment like? What is happening within our environment? What is our home like, right? Who are we relating to? What is our relationships like? Because all of those things will start to impact our behavior patterns, how we handle and how we cope with situations. Therefore, when we're learning these, oftentimes as we grow older, when the same situation comes up, either the situation that you've gone through as a child, right? That you've experienced and that you've learned how to handle, or the way you've seen mom and dad or those that raised you handle it, you're going to handle it the exact same way. Which is why when we're looking at stress eating, emotional eating, right, overeating, all of these patterns are learned, and they are oftentimes learned from that young age. You come home from school, you had a bad day, right? You got in a fight with your best friend. Mom comes and sits down next to you. She says, "What happened? What is going on?" "I had a bad day. I fought with Sally. She called me names. Oh, everything's going to be okay." Mom says, "Let me help you feel better. Have this cookie. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to all work out. Everything's going to be fine," right? "Have this drink. Have this sugary substance. Have this donut," whatever it is, right? In that moment, your young self is looking at this and saying, huh, so if I'm sad, if I had a bad day, going to this sweet or going to this food or whatever mom gave me is going to help me feel better. Now, when that pattern continues to repeat, neurologically,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, those connections start to enhance. They start to become stronger, right? Those waves, those electric connections, they are made, and therefore now young self is going to associate feeling bad or a bad day with eating a cookie. And the more
Well,
it repeats because of neuroplasticity, now we start to form our structure and our brain pattern to do just that. Therefore, now it happens automatically, right?
mm-hmm. Well, that's why when my husband died, I was at my heaviest and I said, okay, you have two choices. You can choose to eat your grief
Mm-hmm.
or you can choose to get healthy.
That's right.
So I joined Weight Watchers. I
Mm.
guess I'm not giving them a plug,
Yeah.
and I really shouldn't. But I joined them and I lost weight. But then at a certain point, I kind of plateaued and I sat here and thought about this because it goes back to, well, chicken is 0 points
Yeah.
and black bean soup is 0 points. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting there thinking, how is this zero? It may be 0 points. That's fine, but it's got calories.
That's
It
right.
still counts. And
Yeah.
you're saying all these foods are 0 points, so you're still allowing me to eat
Eat. That's
without
right.
being healthy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I got off of it, and no offense, and it works well. I'm
It's
not saying it
okay.
doesn't,
Yeah. It
but
helps others.
you have to realize that this is not sustainable.
That's
You
right.
have to make those lifestyle choices, and that's where I came from. And I'm down about 40 pounds, 40, somewhere 40, 45
Congratulations. That's
pounds.
fantastic.
Thank you. But and I'm still not where I want to be, but it's because of my health.
Yeah.
It's because I want to be healthy. And it's like the one thing that, and this is about weight loss, and I'm sure you know this as a trainer, the one thing, especially for women, that is undiagnosed or underdiagnosed
Mm-hmm.
is thyroid conditions.
Absolutely. That's a big one. Yeah.
And nobody acknowledged. I mean, I went, I think, 10 years without ever being diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
I got in a car accident and the acupuncturist made me pull my blood work. And that's how I found out, because my primary care doctor's like, it's all within normal parameters.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have all these signs,
That's right.
they would rather lump it into fibromyalgia
Right.
than actually
Yeah.
dig.
That's right. That's right. And that's why when we recognize certain patterns that we understand are not healthy, or if what we're doing today is giving us an outcome that we are not healthy or happy with, we've got to address this. We've got to come
Mhm.
back and look at, why do I keep doing these behavior patterns? Why do I keep making these choices? Our choices today are a sign of our behavior pattern. If we do not address the behavior pattern, which is causing us to fall into and make these choices, we're going to continue to repeat them, which
Mhm.
is why it's important to look at not what can trim, right? Meaning give me quick solutions by just,
Mhm.
okay, let me go on this diet. Let me stop eating this for a while so that I can get this result. I'm just pruning. I'm just simply going for a quick fix. That is temporary, because if we do not address what is causing it, what has put you in this behavior pattern, what is making you make these choices in the first place, we're going to continue to come back. We're going to fall off these diets. They're not realistic. They're not sustainable. Therefore, whatever is not sustainable will cause you to quit. Whatever doesn't
Mhm.
align to the lifestyle that you desire is going to make you quit. You're going to fall
Mhm.
off. right? So the
Right.
real here thing that we need to look at is not how can I solve this quickly? It's more like what is causing me to continue to do these choices, to make these choices, to be stuck in this same situation of falling or dealing with my emotions in this way, right? Going to food whenever I'm angry, right? Making the bad choices of foods that I'm making that, look, let's be honest. We know we're making them, right? If you are, we've got to
Right.
be honest with ourselves. And the bigger question again is looking at why am I making these behavior choices? Why am I doing them? What is causing me to do them? And it all stems from how we were, how we learned and what we were learned to deal with, how we were learned to have a relationship with food. Because our relationship again starts at a young age. We start to relate with it in this way, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
given frozen food all the time, what's your relationship going to be with food? I'm going to go to
Right.
frozen foods, right?
Well, and here's the thing. Sorry. How long how long do we have? I have my phone on silent. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, how
It
long,
happens.
when you think about things, it's like food is known for celebration even throughout
That's right.
history. You
Always.
have all these stories of big, even the last supper. I mean, come
Mm-hmm.
on, there,
Mm-hmm.
there it is, there's food again.
Yeah,
And you have a birthday party. Oh, let's go out for dinner for this. and
that's right.
and then, I mean, because I'm a little bit older, um McDonald's became it slowly. It used to, you had to get out of your car to go in
Yeah,
and get the food. And then we
right.
started the drive through. And then we
Right.
started to take credit cards. And now we have, it's
They
like
drop it off
we've
at your
made it
front door.
right. We've made it so convenient. And here's the thing,
Yeah.
that convenient meal that's
Mm-hmm.
going to cost you $7. You could buy a package of ground chicken, some bone broth,
That's right.
and some seasoning. And guess what? You have a meal for 2 to 3 days.
That's right.
That's healthier for you.
That's
But
right.
because of the convenience factor of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we go for the quick fix. We go
Yes.
for, let's just go through the drive through. I don't feel like cooking anything
That's right.
tonight. And then the kids, oh, we get a Happy Meal toy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just we keep piling on the convenience factor, and then we took home ec out of the schools.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
who's teaching the kids how to cook unless
Yeah.
it's YouTube now?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's where it really comes down to what it comes down to our relationship with food. What is your relationship with food like? Because based on that relationship is how we adopt our own psychology of food, right? Meaning
Mm-hmm.
now how we view food. What is food to us, right? What do we go to food for, right? What is our understanding of what food really is and what it does for me? If we
Mm-hmm.
do not address that and really come down to identify, well, what established your relationship with food? Why is your relationship with food in this way, right? Most people relationship with food is an unhealthy relationship, which is why we continue to do the choices that we're doing. Not to mention the American standard diet doesn't help us either, right? Everything is processed food, high sugar, high salt together to keep us addicted to the food choices that they want us to go to, right? Then you look at, well, who owns all of these? Who runs the FDA? It's all the same number of companies. And therefore,
Mm-hmm.
they're monopolizing it to control how we as Americans make our food choices. Because if we fall into that and we make the choices that they want us to make, therefore, we will become sick. We will be dependent on drugs. We will be dependent on the healthcare system, right? Which then now makes them more money. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to look at the truth here. Everything or most things about what is out there is setting us up to fail if we fall into what they want us to do, which is why we've got to take back our own health. That is why health is a responsibility and it comes down to a personal choice. It is our responsibility. Because when we look at most homes, why are many children unhealthy from a very young age? It starts from two areas, our home and the place where we spend the most of our time, which is school.
School.
We're being
Mm-hmm.
conditioned from those two areas. So we've got to
Mm-hmm.
look at if our home is not established over an understanding of a healthy relationship with food, our kids are going to grow up to be the same way. unhealthy, making bad food choices, not knowing what the heck to do. Oh, okay, because I don't know, it's easier to do what we can do that is quick. What is that? Convenience, right? What is that? The fasting, the microwave dinners, the fast food, right? Let me just pay so that they could just bring me the food. I don't care.
Since my husband died, let's see. I think I had Wendy's one time, like a month after
Fabulous.
he died, because I was out with a friend. But I'm sure if I went back, it was nasty then. I'm sure it's going to be
Oh,
even
yeah,
nastier after being away for 2 years. And nobody
absolutely.
thinks about that.
Yeah.
My microwave broke
Mm,
and I could have gotten it fixed. And I said, why do I want to do that? And in fact, if you go for a frozen meal now,
yeah.
like lean cuisines, they don't even have instructions on how to do it in the oven anymore.
Mm,
So it's like, so you want everything irradiated. You
convenience. That's
want
right.
the microwave food. And
Yeah.
it's like, no.
Yeah.
So I've this kind of has all forced me to reclaim that part of cooking for myself, freezing something, and then warming it up on the stove.
That's right.
The convenience factor is not there.
Yeah.
Now, do I still run to the local Chinese restaurant to get wonton soup? Yes, that's my
Hey, that's
splurge, but
okay. Right.
it's better than going to
That's
McDonald's
right. Yeah.
and just and the thing is, it kills me to see how many people line up for fast food when it's not really fast anymore because you're in a line waiting.
That's
So
right.
how fast is it?
That's right. But it really comes down to this. Just because there's choices out there, it doesn't mean you have to make them, right? Just because
Right.
there's all of these fast food options for you doesn't mean you have to say yes to them. We can eat all things, but not all things benefit us, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to be the one to recognize that. We've got to be the one to make the choice according to the person we want to be, the life we want to have, the future we want to develop, and the life we want to give to those around us, including our kids.
Yeah.
As parents, now talking to parents, right? How can we say we'll do everything for our kids, right? Or say, I want to be the best for our kids when we're not taking care of our health, one, and we're not investing in our health to be able to give them the best parent we can be, to become and be available for them in the best way we can be. And
Well, go
yeah,
ahead.
please, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's very, and I haven't been a parent for a long time, but the fact is, now being a parent, you have that phone. You have the phone that's constantly
Absolutely. Yeah.
distracting. You have people constantly. I mean, when I was growing up, if your parents went out to dinner, they went out to dinner. There was a number for the restaurant. You weren't getting in touch with them if they went to the movie. That was it. There was not the constant, hi, can you message me now? Can we talk now?
Right.
There wasn't that.
Yeah.
But now there is.
Yeah. I mean, look,
So how
society has changed, and we've got to understand if society has changed, that doesn't mean we have to compromise to things about our own life. We don't have to compromise according to necessarily adopt the new life standard today, right? Because if the new life standard is, oh, convenience, just go quick, just do these, doesn't mean you have to alter your life to do that. We've got to be very clear. And that's what this principle now leads us to. We've got to be very clear with who we want to be, what type of life we want to have, and what future we want to develop. When we get absolutely clear about these things, then we can start aligning our choices to that. One of the questions that I tell my students to do and ask ourselves is before we make a choice, we ask ourselves, ask yourself, is this choice in line with who I want to be? Is this choice that I'm about to make in line with the future I want to have or the future I'm developing for myself? If the answer is no, then let's rethink our choice. Let's look for then what is the next best choice we can make that is in line with that. But it's about self awareness and it's about
Mhm.
our own responsibility of becoming hyper responsible with our own life. Not, well, what can they tell me to do, right? What can somebody else give me a solution for? No, 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 no. It's me being responsible for what I'm choosing to make, knowing that this choice is going to impact not only right now, temporarily, but it's impacting what I'm crafting and what I am shaping for my future. That is how intentional we need to be.
I agree. I totally agree. But I have to say, from from the job I used to do, which was as an insurance adjuster a long time ago, my very first claim taught me everything I needed to know about people. And it was a parking lot accident. And the guy had snow in his back window and he backed into somebody. And this was my insured.
Hmm.
And he says to me, "The accident's not my fault."
Hmm.
And I said, "How do you figure the accident's not your fault?" "Well, it's not. I looked to my left, I looked to my right, and I backed up. He should have seen me." "Did you clean your window?" "No."
That says
"It's
it
your
all.
fault, sir."
That's right.
"I want your boss. I want your boss." "Okay." But this is what
Yeah,
it taught me, the very
that's right.
valuable lesson that nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions.
That's right.
It's much easier for me to sit there and say, I could sit here and say, well, I'm overweight because my mom was overweight.
100%.
Well,
That's right. Yeah,
I could, and maybe that's where I learned the pattern, but I'm the one that chose to eat. And then, of course,
that's right.
medical conditions happen.
That's right.
But the fact is, we are our choices and we
Hmm.
have to look at those things and accept it. But we have to be gracious with ourselves
A
and
hundred.
forgive ourselves for
Yes,
the
I
choices.
agree. I agree. Which is why we've got to be self-intentional and we've got to be self-responsible, right? Meaning that we've got to look at ourselves and be very honest, right? Because it's very easy to point the finger, right? To blame,
Mhm.
oh, but my coworker brought these donuts, right? Oh, but it's the my boss that says I have to join them for lunch every day and go to this restaurant, right? It was my mom, it was my dad, like pointing, or we can do like Gary V suggests to point the thumb at us, right? And look at what am I doing? What choices am
Mhm.
I making? What am I choosing to allow into my mouth, into my body, right? Into my thoughts, into my emotions, into the relationships that I have, and the choices that I'm ultimately making. I am making these choices. So when we take this self intention and we're intentional with the choices we're making, we're responsible to say, yeah, I've made these choices. Yeah, I'm not making the best choices. Yeah, I know I've caused this on myself, sadly, right? When we get to that place, then it's easier for us to invite opportunity, right? Allow ourselves to now then start changing the choices that we're making by changing our behavior patterns, meaning how we now handle certain things, how we handle the coworker and say respectfully, I appreciate it, but I just don't want to right now. Thank you. Right. Understanding our worth and value is going to allow us to now take self responsibility to make better choices because it's about the pattern that we're repeating and starting to now learn to make new choices that will then change our behavior pattern by changing our neurological connections to now adopt a new life, a new lifestyle, new habits, and ultimately become the person you desire to become. Because that's ultimately the goal here, right?
Right. Well, you're talking about the neurological thing. The one thing we have to do also is learn to step away from the media. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking just the media in general. I'm talking like these fast blips of TikTok and all the social media that is feeding us and changing. I mean, there's studies saying that's actually changing our neural pathways.
Right.
So why are we doing it? Why it changes our attention span, it changes our focus, and it's a time suck.
It is.
And yes, I'm on social media. I
Yeah.
understand. And
Yeah.
yes, call me a hypocrite. That's fine. But
No, I mean,
unfortunately, to
I
do
think it's a
business, you have to
hypocrite.
be there.
That's it. That's it. That's really it, right? It's based on the lifestyle now that the society that we're in, right? Understanding that we are doing it for a specific choice. Again, why are we on here, right? What is our purpose
Hmm.
for being on here? What is the purpose of me consuming this content? What is the purpose of me being on social media, right? Understanding what it is now then doing to me or what am I allowing it to do to me, right? Again, self responsibility, being intentional, right? Because I think we can do all things in a very healthy way. If you like alcohol, we can consume it in a healthy way. If you like eating out, we can consume it in a healthy way. If you like being on social media, okay, we can consume it in a healthy way. But it's really about getting down to that place that you are going to decide how it impacts, how it reflects, how it influences, how much of it you consume, how much time you deal with it, how much food you eat when you go to a restaurant, even though it's on the plate, doesn't mean you have to eat it all, right?
Right.
Self
Well,
responsibility.
Well, and that's the thing with social media. For me, like TikTok, the only time I usually am on TikTok is if I'm uploading a video.
That's right.
I am not going to get sucked in there. And
Yeah.
then you hear things like, this is what boggles the mind is when you hear something like the FDA has to put out a warning not to cook chicken with NyQuil.
I saw that. That is
And
hilarious.
you're like, but
Yeah.
then I sit there and go, well, you had a claim with an electric heating pad and a microwave oven.
Yeah.
So you get it. I mean, you have to, everything has to be, dare I say, portion control.
Yeah.
We tend to want to be a gluttonous society.
Mhm.
We want, if it feels good, we want more.
That's right.
And that can be out everything from sex to TV to
Yeah.
Netflix to whatever.
That's right.
But we need to start looking at moderation, and that's a hard thing to do sometimes.
It is. That's why it's about, again, going back to the understanding piece for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, we've got to understand that these choices or these things that are out there, right? We can't avoid them. They're there, right? For the
Mm-hmm.
most part, most of these things. We can't control that. However, we can control what we do. We can control the choices that we make. We can control. And it comes down to understanding, well, what is food? If we're looking at entertainment, well, what is entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
What is it intended for? What is food intended for? When we understand these components, understanding what food is for, it's to fuel me, it's to give me nutrients, it's to keep me alive, it's to help me perform better, it's to help me think better, it's to help me become the most optimal I can be each day to live the best life I can live. Okay, great. If that's the intent, the reason or why food was created. Now, it does bring other pleasures. It can bring, joy. It can help make us feel happy. It does bring endorphins and increase our dopamine, all of these things. But when we understand the true essence of it and we now develop a relationship with that understanding, it's going to now then allow us to make these portion controls choices, right? To have things in moderation, to be able to go out with your friends or go out with family or whatever, and if you want to have a dessert, you can still do it in moderation. You can still make the choices that we make and do them in a healthy way. But again, it all stems back to, what is our relationship like, and what are we choosing our relationship to be like with these things? Because we're in
Mm-hmm.
relationship with everything. You just
Mm-hmm.
mentioned you have a relationship with Netflix, my friend. That is why when you turn it on, it suggests certain things for you right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
knows you. You're in
Mm-hmm.
relationship. You're in relationship with your coworker. All of these things, and it really now comes down to, what type of relationship do you want to have?
Mm-hmm.
So that then we
Mm-hmm.
can start crafting the choices that we're going to make with that, right?
Yeah.
So that we can start ultimately living the life that we want. But if we don't address what is causing us to have this relationship in the first place, whether it's an addictive one, whether it's an abusive one, whether it's a toxic one, or whether it's a healthy one and you want more of it, we've got to be able to address the root cause of this so that then we can identify what traps we might be in our behavior pattern, what is triggering us to be here, so that then we can start learning a new behavior pattern.
True. True. I'm going to switch gears completely
Let's do it.
because I want to know about your near death experience in Haiti.
Yeah. 2018, I went on a mission trip to Haiti for to help at some kids' orphanages. We came back 5 days later. I started to feel sick, like a common cold. But what I noticed was that my fever temperature was just skyrocketing. It was about 108, 109. They couldn't bring it down. I was rushed to the emergency room, and my third day in, a doctor comes in and he says, "You've got tropical viruses. One of those is dengue fever, and you're going to feel like you're going to die, and you might die. There's nothing else we can do." And he walked out.
Gee, thanks. That's
Yeah. In that moment, it was like, all right, great. Thank you. I feel like I'm dying right now. And it did take me to the point where I was like, I want to end it, right? I was in so much pain. The dengue fever is known as a bone crushing virus. You literally feel your bones just breaking down inside. The virus eats your muscles from the inside out, and it starts to shut down your organs. So my lungs shut down, my intestines shut down. I was very close to my kidneys stopping working, and I was one step away from hemorrhage. And
Wow.
at the time, I was in the best shape of my life I had ever been. I was actually training to compete next year, the following year in bodybuilding. So I had the most muscle I ever had, just all around best physique I ever had. I was weighing about 245 pounds, 20% body fat. Like I was very, very fit. 11 days later, the doctor comes in and he says, "You beat it. You've just defeated dengue fever." I lost 70 pounds in those 11 days, and I was in the weakest state of my life. But I say that it was the best thing that could have happened to me because at that time, I was um, in my business, I was only taking on exclusive clients. I was very selective with the people I would train. It was very intimate, very high ticket priced. And I heard like this really still small voice and said, "Now that you've been given a second chance of life, what are you going to do with it?" And it was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And it was like, "You've been given this opportunity of life, you've been given a certain ability. Now, what are you going to do with it?" And that's where really the crafting of the business happened. I was able to now explore and expand. And today we look at 3, 4 years later, we're helping people all across the globe, helping people get healthy, get fit, and doing a lot of really awesome things with my life. So I made it through. I survived. But had I not been healthy,
I was gonna say,
right?
had you not been in that, and this is, they always say the universe provides us
Yeah,
certain lessons and brings us.
that's
If
right.
you would not have been in that at that healthy weight,
That's right.
you would not have survived it.
And that's exactly what the doctor said, right? He said, had you not had that amount of muscle, had you not been that healthy, there's no way you would have survived 3 tropical viruses. You should have been dead. And I say, well, if it hadn't been for my faith in God and my health, I wouldn't be here today. And it's awesome
Mhm.
because I think every experience for me has three things. It's what can I learn from this experience? What can I gain from this experience? And how can I see God or the greater good in this situation, right? Not just looking at my problem, my pain, but how is this greater than me? How is this impacting something more in me, right? And for me,
Mhm.
changing the perspective on that experience really allowed me to look at life in a totally different way, but understand that this was a great experience for me to learn and grow as an individual to be able to do more now today.
Well, and for me personally, when I go through something, it's like I look at it and go, like, I didn't have the best stepfather.
Right.
But when I became a step parent, I knew what I didn't want to be as a
Mm,
step parent because I had that experience.
right.
And I think if we're able to look at those experiences in our life instead of going, gosh, that was
Mm-hmm.
just crap. I learned
Mm-hmm.
nothing from it. I don't know why. The truth is, there was a lesson there. And if you
Absolutely.
really pay attention and
Yes.
unpack it,
Right.
it's kind of like the big thing about triggers. Everybody goes on about triggers, and dieting is a big trigger.
Right.
But the thing is, when we're triggered, we actually have to start looking at those triggers instead of eating food or
Mm-hmm.
putting a book down because this triggered me or turning off a TV. Because that the reason you're being triggered is because you're being told to look at this.
Yeah.
You have to, it's time to do the work.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times we just want to avoid it, but we have to do the work.
Yeah. The triggers are indication that there's something that is about to cause a reaction if we don't pay attention to it, right? And
Mhm.
oftentimes the reaction is not going to be a healthy one because it's how can I quickly resolve what just triggered this emotion, whether it's anger, sadness, rage, um,
A bad
ever.
memory.
That's right. Whatever I am feeling in the moment, and I want to deal with it quickly so that I don't have to face it, right? And it's about literally stopping ourselves. What just happened? The hardest part in any moment, whatever behavior pattern we're in that is an unhealthy behavior pattern, the first thing we need to do is stop. Stop ourselves and ask, what just happened?
Yeah.
What just happened that's made me feel this way? Was it something somebody said? Was it something that somebody did? Did somebody look at me wrong? Did somebody respond in a different way that I didn't like, right? What just happened and why am I feeling
Mhm.
this way, right? So we also have to acknowledge what we're feeling. Oftentimes we're taught to suppress it. Just suppress that anger. Just swallow it. Just swallow that sadness. Just swallow that rage. No, 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 no. The moment we suppress it, it's going to temporarily might give us a fix, but then there comes a moment where it's like, I can't no longer deal with it. I'm going to now just go to the extreme choice to deal with everything that I've been bottling up. We've got to acknowledge. When we acknowledge and we stop ourselves, we acknowledge what happened, we acknowledge what we're feeling, we can now give ourselves an opportunity to make a different choice.
Well, see, here's the one thing I want to say about this is when we're kids, our parents have taught us to suppress that. And
Absolutely.
our parents have taught us, to
Again,
be
learned
seen and not,
behavior.
yeah, to be seen and not heard. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you want something to cry? You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. It's
Yeah.
like, but you're not, and it's, for my generation, it was much worse for guys. They
Yeah.
could not even, they were not supposed to verbalize any of that.
Nothing. Can't
And
cry, nothing.
women,
Yeah.
we weren't supposed to either, but we could get away with a little bit more because
Mm-hmm.
we were the emotional ones.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, all you've done is create some toxic situations where
Absolutely.
people of Gen X generation
Yeah.
basically want to just go screw you in a polite way,
That's right.
and it's like, I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
But what has that created? And you look at the younger generation now, and they're kind of just going, whatever, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
That's right.
So it's like we're swinging this wild pendulum that we need to find balance, and we need to be able to have open dialogues and open communication like this,
Right.
and talk about these things, because nobody wants to. If I'm triggered, I just don't want to deal with it. And then somebody's going to call you soft because you were triggered. But triggers have to be really, I mean, I'm an author, so triggers is a big thing now. And
Good.
it's like, if you're triggered, instead of sitting there saying, well, the author should be in trouble for writing this because this is just bad, it should have been triggered. And but when I would pick up a book in the 80s, I didn't know what I was getting into.
That's
I
right.
would just read it, and it took me for a ride. And if I was triggered, then it was my point to look at it and review it and go, okay, what's going on
That's
with me?
right.
Why did this resonate? But
Absolutely.
they want triggers, and then they don't want to read it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're missing out on the valuable lesson of healing by not facing what is triggering you. You're losing growth.
We need to learn how to deal with our emotions. We need to learn how to acknowledge and learn, what do I do when I've been triggered and now have an emotion. If
Mm-hmm.
we're not taught how to deal with our emotions, how to acknowledge the emotions and understand that our emotions are a good thing. They were given to us for a specific reason. They're giving us
Mm-hmm.
information about ourselves that we've got to pay attention to. And it really comes down to being vulnerable, right? And understanding that acknowledging and having emotions is okay. Giving ourselves permission to experience emotions. That is why, from a young age, as kids, we've got to allow our kids to experience emotions. Because if they don't experience them, they don't know how to deal with them.
No,
They
but
don't know
hey,
what to
look,
do with them, right?
right.
We've got to experience and know that it's okay to be angry. I don't care what society says. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel defeated. It's okay, and recognize it. Right now, I'm feeling angry, and that's okay. When we give ourselves permission to that, we're then going to be able to know what to do with it. Because if I'm angry right now and I acknowledge anger, and we teach people that anger is okay, it's a good thing. Now, how we deal with the anger is the next step. Then we're able to teach them, okay, this anger, we should deal with it in this way, in a healthy way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we can go on with this topic, and there's so many different strategies that we can look at, but for time's sake, it's really about us being to the place to then being open to learning how to deal with it. Because then when we
Mm-hmm.
deal with it, then we're no longer reacting. Oh, he made me angry, so I'm going to punch him. No, I'm
Right.
going to stop
Right.
myself and said, okay, he made me angry. Let's recognize and look at, well, maybe he has something that he's dealing with, right? He might be hurt. We know the phrase, hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And understand now in an empathetic way to be able to then now deal with the anger that we're feeling in a healthy way. So instead of reacting, now I'm going to respond from a different
Right.
state.
Well,
Right.
and that's the thing. It's like people, whether it be celebrity or whatever, it's like if a celebrity is short with somebody,
Yeah.
oh, well, they're just the worst person in the world. Hey, guess what? They're
That's
human. They have
right. Thank
emotion. They
you.
can't be on
Yeah.
24/7. And your
Yeah.
teacher can't be on 24/7. You don't know. They showed up for, or anybody showing up for work,
Yeah.
and they're upset and you don't know why. Maybe their dog died that
That's
morning.
right.
You
Yeah.
don't know.
That's right.
But we're supposed to put on this facade and just be
Hmm.
all love and light all the time. And it's like, that's not who we are. And if
Right.
we embrace our emotions instead of running from them or masking them,
Yeah.
we might actually be able to heal as a people
Hmm.
and stop looking at these fake images that we're creating of a world that isn't real.
That's right. That's right.
Not everybody can afford to go on these luxury vacations. Not everybody can afford to have designer clothes. But why are we all striving for that when really the bigger gift is compassion and love for each
That's
other?
right.
I mean, I will wrap this up shortly, but when I look at my husband, he sat there and said, "Well, I'm going to die," and so I took a gamble because he says, "I'm going to die. I'm going to die, and I'll die soon, and then you'll be alone." And I'm like, "I'd
Mm.
rather love you and lose you."
Yeah.
And the biggest gift I got from him, we had 16 years together,
Mm.
and the biggest gift I got from him was unconditional love
Mm.
because at a certain point he lost his vision for the most part, and so it didn't matter what I looked like.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if I had gray in my hair. It didn't matter about anything because you know what? He loved me.
That's right.
And that is the biggest gift that any of us can give to somebody and also, and also give.
That's right.
We can receive it and give it. And that is way more valuable than what money is. Because let's be honest, at this point in the game, unless you have money in your hand, it is all a numbers game.
That's right. That's right. But a smile can do so much. Respecting
Mm-hmm.
somebody else can do so much. Being vulnerable and being able to just have a conversation and recognize that somebody's angry, maybe something's happening, right? Let's be more interesting. Let's listen. Let's be open. Let's be empathetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than trying to be selfish and trying to be interesting. I meant be more interested, not
I
interesting.
know.
Be more
I know.
interested in the sense of let me be open, right? Let me be. I'm feeling this way. I'm dealing with this. Let's be open about it. Than trying to simply be selfish to have others always cater or tailor to you. Or why did they do this to me? I'm gonna now do it back to them, right?
Victim mentality
That's
with
right.
revenge. And when the husband was on his borrowed time, we had a blue panda. And if
Mm.
he didn't want to talk about something, that blue panda would go on the
That's
table.
beautiful.
And that was fine. We would talk
Great.
about it later.
Yeah.
But there would be times where he would get frustrated. And even though he could somewhat still see out of one
Yeah.
eye, he wanted to cook. And I wasn't going to take that privilege
Of
away.
course.
So I hear, MF this. And it's like, I go in the kitchen. He's like, "Is your name MF?" And I'm like, I walked out. Come back about 15 minutes later. I'm like, "You okay?" "Yeah, it wasn't about you. It was about,"
Mm.
and that's the thing. If we
Self
have
awareness.
grace,
Yeah.
right. And if we have grace for the other party
That's right.
that we're in an argument with,
Good point.
then you're going to have an understanding. It's not like some of the toxic relationships you've seen on TV or heard about where people are yelling at each other and the other party is trying to walk away
That's right.
and the one that is lashing out still wants to continue to lash out. That's not healthy.
That's right.
That's toxic.
That's right.
And you have to step back and let people look at their emotions and go, "I'll come back and deal with them when they're a little saner." Let them have their tantrum.
That's right. That's right. As actors, we're taught to take our eyes off of us and always put it on the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if I'm going to interact or if I'm going to be able to do a scene with you, it's not about me. How am I going to respond? It's let me listen to what you're saying so that then I know what is happening to be able to respond from that place. But oftentimes we
Mm-hmm.
want to be the first at everything, right? It's all
Mm-hmm.
about us. We got to take our eyes off of self and be able to embrace others and take others in that are in front
Mm-hmm.
of us.
And let's be honest, the other lesson I learned in acting class was to live in the moment.
That's
And we're
right.
always
Moment to
trying to
moment.
live in the future or live in
Absolutely.
the past.
Yeah. Always want to
So
get ahead. Yeah.
you have to live in the moment
Yes.
and embrace whatever that gift is.
That's beautiful.
So is there anything that we did not discuss that you would like to add?
No, I think I just close with you have everything within you to live the life and be the person that you want. And if we're able and willing to just be open to acknowledge the areas that we're struggling in, being responsible and owning up to things that we know are not allowing us to tap into the better self of who we want to be, when we're able to get to that place, we can change anything that we desire.
So true. So very true. So your company is Body by Purpose,
Correct.
and all the information for that will be on the show notes. So I thank you
Fantastic.
for joining me, David.
My pleasure. Thank you. And if I can support in any way, know that I'm here to support and serve those around me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Thank you. So David and I had an interesting conversation, and after I wrapped, I realized there was something I wanted to mention and get his take on. But I think the thing that we didn't cover is ego. And that is the thing that keeps us safe. It keeps us into this little place of, well, you're okay. You know what you have. Why do you want to change it? It doesn't matter that we know it's bad for you and the doctor said you should change this and this and this and this, but you should stay here. It'll be okay. It's kind of like that loaf of bread with my husband. It's like the temptation to go back was much easier for the brain to handle, the ego to handle, than making those changes and keeping up with those changes. So I think if we actually, as a society, look at what is distracting us, face our triggers, and I know this sounds like a laundry list of, oh, look at all this good stuff. But if we actually take time and stock and face what triggers us and start digging deep at how we need to change ourselves to learn the lessons that we were put here on this earth for, and to better ourselves and to be a better person and to look at people with compassion and empathy instead of going, oh my gosh. The thing is, we each are an individual. There's nobody else like us. And we are capable of change. We are capable of love. And the honest thing is, we don't have to look outside of ourselves for that. We have to accept who we are. And that could be good, bad, and different. We are all flawed. We are not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect. No matter how much money you have, you're never going to be perfect, because you can get all the plastic surgery you want, but then there's going to be a line that you see, and you're going to want to fix that. There's always going to be something else to fix. And if we accept ourselves for who we are, then you're not so worried about that. You love yourself for you. And that's kind of where we all need to be, is we need to love ourselves for us and love others for who they are and accept them. And if they're not willing to change and it's harmful for you, then you get out of the situation. But don't try to mask it. Don't try to hide your emotions. Deal with them, write it out, face it. Because food's not going to help. Alcohol's not going to help. Any other escapism isn't going to help. You have to live in the moment, and you have to write it out if that's how you choose, or talk to somebody, find somebody, a counselor to talk to. So on that note, I hope you had a wonderful day, evening, whenever you choose to listen to this. If you would like to leave me a comment or a question for the show, you can do so by going to Donna, Dauna, at better2podcast.com. That's Donna at better2podcast.com. All the links are in the show notes. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be booking any more guests or not, because I may be going on hiatus for a bit. And I think I have 3 or 4 more episodes after this one. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see where this goes. So I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. The Better 2 podcast is mixed, edited, and produced by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio Productions.